Chapter 15. In January of 2007, I began to have severe stomach issues, and I became very constipated. It basically felt like my colon had stopped working. Nothing would come out no matter what I tried. It eventually got to the point that Kelly ended up rushing me to the emergency room one night. They did all the tests that they could do, but was not able to tell me anything. They just wrote me a prescription for some special laxative and sent me home. Although they did mention that I would probably need to go see a gastroenterologist. He was a colon specialist. They mentioned that there was one right across the street, and his name was Dr. Meichner. I went to see Dr. Meichner the very next morning. Apparently the ER had called and left a message last night and asked him to get me in ASAP. Dr. Meichner was a very dry man. There just wasn't any life in him. He seemed burned out and bored. There just didn't seem to be any joy in him. I don't know. Maybe if you spend every day of your life just looking at people's butts and their insides, it just ends up affecting you in that way. So after telling him everything that was happening, he knew just what needed to be done. He probably knew what needed to be done before I even walked in the door. He told me that I needed a colonoscopy. A colon what? I said. A colonoscopy, he said, speaking a little louder as if I was deaf. A colonoscopy is where you get completely naked and put on this gown that is open in the back. You lay down on this table with your butt facing the doctor, and he guides this video recorder into your exit hole and throughout your colon. It is a video recorder that is attached to the end of a very long, rigid cord. He is able to maneuver it wherever he needs it to go. I think he might have even controlled it mechanically, too. The image is displayed on this big monitor that hangs on the wall. Thankfully, when I woke up in the recovery room, I had no recollection of this experience. I also didn't remember something I said in the recovery room, but Kelly swears up and down that I did. Apparently, when you wake up from these procedures, your mind is still halfway sedated. Kelly said she walked in to ask me how I was feeling, and I said, I don't know. All I know is this nurse here has seen me naked twice now, and she still hasn't given me her phone number. After I woke up all the way, Dr. Meichner comes in and proceeds to tell me that I have ulcerative colitis. He told me that I had ulcers throughout the lower part of my colon. I asked him what had caused these ulcers, and he said, No one knows the cause, but we believe it is from an autoimmune disease. This occurs when your body's natural defense system malfunctions and is overactive. It can no longer tell what it should attack, so it just starts attacking everything. So basically, your body is attacking itself, and the ulcers in your colon are the result. I'm not sure if those were his exact words, but that's basically what he said. This was his educated answer that he had spent his life in college to learn. I was very confused by this statement. How could this happen? It didn't seem possible to me, but I had no other choice but to believe him. After all, he was the doctor. So after accepting his explanation of why I had ulcerative colitis, or UC as they call it, I was now only concerned about how to fix it. I wanted it to go away. More than anything, I wanted the pain to stop. He proceeded to tell me that there was no known cure for an autoimmune disease. He told me that most people that develop UC end up having their colon removed within 7 to 10 years. This is because the ulcers will eventually consume the entire colon and become cancerous. He also said that a hole would have to be cut through my stomach in order to attach a bag to my small intestine. This bag would have to be worn on my side to catch the waste as it leaves the small intestine, and that my rectum would be sewed up. This was devastating news to a young man in his 20s. How can I function in life having a bag filled with poop on my side at all times? My beach days were over, I thought. What about intimacy with my wife? There's got to be a plan B. All these thoughts are running through my mind, and then I remembered the pain. It reminded me it was there. So what do I do for the next 7 to 10 years, Doc? I can't go 7 more years feeling like this. Is there a way to stop the pain? The doctor proceeds to tell me that even though there is no cure, the pain can be managed. There were drugs available that would help with the symptoms. This was very good news to me. At least I did not have to worry about anything for at least the next 7 years. Or so I thought. One of the drugs he prescribed to me was called prednisone. Prednisone was a miracle. Within 2 days of taking it, the pain subsided. I felt normal again. I had no idea how it worked, and I didn't care. I was pain-free, and that was all that mattered. Life was good again. At least it was until the side effects started to appear. I learned the hard way about prednisone. Now that I have researched prednisone, I understand why and how it works. I know that it is truly one of the worst drugs a doctor can prescribe you. The reason it seems to help people with autoimmune disease is because it shuts down our body's immune system. It keeps our body from fighting, and that includes everything, even the bad stuff our immune system was created to fight. That is why the pain stops, because our bodies stop fighting. I have learned a lot about pain over the years. I now know that pain is our body's way of telling us something is wrong. Taking the pain away does not remove the issue. It just keeps us from noticing the issue is there. But the issue just continues to get worse and worse. After a while, we are in a worse condition than we were to begin with. Our immune system is now compromised. We've been shut down from the inside. Our shields are down. We no longer have a defense. We are susceptible to anything that wants to invade our body, and we can no longer fight it. This is one way that cancer can easily take over, or any other disease for that matter. It's a whole lot easier for Satan to attack us when our shield is down. After experiencing the side effects of prednisone, I decided to get another opinion from a different doctor. This doctor introduced me to another medicine. It was supposed to be less invasive than prednisone. It was a bottle of white liquid that I would have to squirt into my rectum every night and hold inside my colon until morning. It was created to form a sort of artificial Band-Aid over the ulcers. Sounded easy enough, right? Well, I can assure you that it wasn't. That area is meant to be exit only. Having to overcome the sensation of something being injected into an exit-only area was, to say at the very least, very intense. It made every hair on my body stand on end, and I wanted nothing more in the world at that moment than to sit on a toilet and squirt it back out. Having to hold that stuff in all night made going to bed something I did not look forward to. And I had to do it every single night. Otherwise, I would be in severe pain the next day. The liquid Band-Aid enema stopped working after a while. I went to doctor after doctor after doctor in search of a miracle drug, each one having their own opinions about what to try. Some were even specialists in other states that I would either drive to or fly to see. I think I ended up trying every drug available for UC, but nothing worked for a long time, and all of them had bad side effects. The pain was so intense, I couldn't overcome it. I was willing to do anything to make it stop. This one time, I even volunteered to be a test rat for the FDA, and I signed up to try this new drug that was trying to come out into the market. They said that whoever volunteered would get the medication free for life. I thought that was awesome because UC meds are very expensive, and some things my insurance didn't pay for. I went and interviewed, but they didn't choose me. I was very disappointed, but looking back, I am extremely thankful that they didn't. Several years went by, and I had decided that it might be time to just remove my colon. I was done dealing with it. It was becoming unbearable. So I started researching which doctors in the area had the most experience removing a colon. I found one in Mobile and I went to see him. His name was Dr. Orleans. I told him everything I had tried and that I was considering having my colon removed. He said that he would do whatever I decided, but there was one other drug that could help that I had not tried yet. It was called Remicade, and it was very expensive. I told him that if my insurance would cover it, I would try it. Somehow they agreed to it, and the appointment was made for me to receive Remicade. Remicade required me to go to the hospital in order to receive it. It was a clear liquid, and it had to be administered through an IV over a period of 3 hours. The room I entered was nice, and it looked inviting. It had around 6 recliners for us to recline in, and we could watch TV, read, or play on our phones. Several people came to receive Remicade during the time I was there. I didn't mind being stuck with a needle, so the whole procedure was easy and relaxing. Remicade actually worked. It would last for a long time and only had to be injected into me once per month. I really didn't mind driving to get it each month. Having 3 whole hours to be away from work to just sit, relax, and entertain myself was something that I began to look forward to. I often watched movies on my phone. The best thing of all was that I didn't have to squirt liquid Band-Aid enema in my butt anymore. Life was good again. After about 6 months of Remicade treatment, my body began having severe side effects. My skin started to itch so severely, there was nothing I could do to stop it. I would itch until the skin was gone, and it would still itch. I bought and tried every lotion, every oil, every powder, and every itch relief the world had created, but nothing would help. I would wake up at night and scratch for hours, not being able to stop, and not being able to sleep. I started to have sores appear all over my body. I stayed weak. I had no energy, no motivation to do anything. And many strange, unnatural things were happening inside of me. I was absolutely miserable. I felt like I was physically in hell. At first, I did not accept that it was Remicade causing these problems. I guess I didn't want to blame the drug that was keeping my UC at bay. But I eventually had to accept it, and I stopped going to get it. I'm sure the doctor was disappointed that I stopped because I found out that my insurance was being charged $6,000 every time I went, and I'm certain he got a portion of that. No wonder he was so eager to prescribe it to me. Of course, when he was offering it to me, there was never any mention of how the Remicade actually worked. And unfortunately, I didn't ask. I should have known better by then, but I was still naive and believed that doctors knew what was best for me. I would trust and do whatever they told me to. Remicade is a drug that works like prednisone, only it is a lot more powerful. The reason it had to be administered through an IV over a 3-hour period is because if it had been injected all at once, it would have killed me. It completely shuts down our body's natural immune system. You know, the one that God created? Everything is shut down. Our bodies go into a state of death from the inside. If I would have continued putting that poison into my body, it would eventually have put me into the grave. Mentally, spiritually, and sooner or later, physically. How can doctors consciously prescribe these lethal drugs to people, knowing what they are and what they do? The only way they can is because they have no conscience. God's love, God's wisdom and discernment is not in them. All of that is taken away from them as they're being taught in Satan's institutions, or college as the world calls it. So I battled the side effects of Remicade for the next year or so. I started to wonder if my skin would ever be normal again. Unfortunately, I had to begin taking the liquid Band-Aid enemas again to help with the pain, and I would have to take prednisone from time to time to help with the bad flare-ups. I had decided that even though these drugs were bad, they were better than the alternative, and I had decided that I really did not want to remove my colon. I learned to live with the pain, and I dealt with it the best I could. Even though sometimes that meant pulling off on the side of the road to poop, because when you have UC, it's coming out whether you want it to or not, bathroom or no bathroom. Having it come out in my pants wasn't an uncommon occurrence either, because sometimes there wasn't time to get somewhere. One time I was talking to a customer at work. He was one of those customers that loved to talk and did not know how to stop. While I was standing there listening to him, the UC knocked on the door of my exit hole. With all the strength in my soul, I tried to keep the door locked, but UC just kicked it down. As I stood there in front of him trying my absolute best to keep a straight face, UC started flowing like a volcano out the door of my rectum into my underwear. Somehow, I kept him from ever knowing what had happened, and I was soon able to get to a bathroom and clean myself. Although I'm certain that he must have thought I had farted or something, there's no way he could not have smelled UC. That stuff stank. It was truly a miserable thing to live with. But this was my life, and I had no choice but to accept it.